nostalgic fighting action in Capcom's definitive classic beat-em-up for the Super Nintendo. Street Fighter II introduced new levels of gameplay, graphics, music, personality and outright fighting action never before enjoyed by a home audience. Now anyone who had the privilege of being around and playing games when this little beauty showed up were in for a treat. Most fighting games before this were pretty sluggish, even the best ones, like the original Street Fighter and International Karate, enjoyable as they may have been. The premise of the game was simple. Choose any one of 8 characters and punch, kick, slap and slam your way through the Street Fighter tournament. From the traditional karate of Ryu and Ken, to the high-flying antics of Chun-Li, to the slower style of Zangief, Street Fighter II became such a phenomenal success in most part due to its refined gameplay that differed from each character. Today, this may not seem like breaking news, but back in the day, pre-Street Fighter II games just didn't have this level of refinement. Controls were fluid and felt perfectly natural. It's plain to see how long Capcom spent on this part of the game. Speaking of controls, those of us into our fighting games have the basic special moves imprinted into our DNA. From dragon punches to fireballs. What? Oh fine, Hadoukens then. To spinning bird kicks, to sonic booms, fighting fans can perform these special moves standing on their heads. The one-on-one action was broken up by means of 2 bonus rounds, the first of which was a fairly common karate exercise of smashing up a pile of bricks. The second one was taken from another Capcom game, Final Fight, where the idea was to smash up some poor chap's motor, except this time you don't get to see him show up. As mentioned before, each character played differently, offering players different challenges and tactics to use. The real challenge of these skills are after you'd beaten all the other characters. At this point you'd face off against the game's 4 boss characters. First up was Balrog, or M. Bison as he was known in the Japanese version. Providing you can avoid this boxer's heavy punching power, you shouldn't have too many problems beating him. Next is Vega. This dude was hard, very quick, agile and sneaky, very hard to get at. You needed to have a good defense and counter-attack strategy to beat him. The penultimate boss is Sagat. This Muay Thai kickboxer can throw some devastating artillery at you. His tiger uppercut puts both Ken and Ryu's dragon punches to shame. Lastly is Bison. This bloke is just unorthodox. He comes at you from everywhere, fast. I still have a bit of trouble beating this bloke. Again, and again, and again, and again. But then again, I'm a little bit rubbish really. The graphics in Street Fighter II obviously set new standards on home consoles, namely because this was one of the first titles released for the new 16-bit Super Nintendo. The graphics were ported almost perfectly from the arcade version, but the arcade version does look a little bit beefier. Almost all animations are included from the arcade version. The characters blended just nicely with the gorgeous backdrops, which almost come to life with activity. To say Street Fighter II sounds the part is an understatement. The SNES version improves on the arcade version with crisper tunes and no skipping of any sections of music. Though not as beefy as the arcade version, the sound effects are convincing enough. Punches connect and crates smash with enough oomph to give you that real satisfaction. The main fault in Street Fighter II was the speed of the game, especially in comparison to today's 2D fighting games. World Warrior just isn't up to scratch, and the European version is even slower. Additionally, you couldn't control any of the 4 boss characters. Smart strategy from Capcom if you ask me though. This just left fans hungry for Street Fighter 2 Turbo. It can easily be argued that Street Fighter 2 was one of the games that kicked off the golden era of video gaming, as well as being one of Nintendo's powerhouses in the Sega Nintendo console wars, at least until the Mega Drive got its own version. Now you can talk about how Street Fighter 2 Turbo and other versions were superior in every respect, but this was the one that started the whole craze. Such was the demand for this game, some retailers were accepting orders in excess of £100 for import copies of the game. That is a sick amount of money to pay for a single game. That's exactly what some desperate folks were paying. Ultimately, Street Fighter 2 looked great, sounded great, and played like a dream. It started a craze that's just as big today as it ever was. Okay, it's been rehashed numerous times, but we don't care. Street Fighter 2 is simply legendary. This is Goomba, thanks for watching.